We only invited special people. My daughter-in-law said when I called to ask about my son's wedding, I'd given them $33,000 over 3 years, paid their rent, bought their furniture, raised my son alone after his mother died. They thought the 71-year-old man would just accept it. They were wrong. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. This story needs to be heard. It started with a phone call I should never have made. That Saturday afternoon, I was sitting in my living room, the same room where I'd raised Garrett alone after his mother died. I picked up my phone, excited, hopeful. My son was getting married. I wanted to make sure I had the date right, that I'd be there for the most important day of his life. "Garrett," I said when he answered, "I was just wondering when you finalized the wedding date. I want to make sure I'm there." There was a pause. Then I heard rustling, and suddenly it wasn't my son's voice anymore. "Oh, Dwayne." Sloane's voice was bright, almost cheerful. "We got married yesterday. It was super last minute, just us and the officiant, you know how it is." My hand tightened on the phone. Yesterday, but I thought, "We only invited special people," she said. The words were light casual, like she was commenting on the weather. "You understand. Special people." I stood there in my living room, holding that phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Through the speaker, I could hear music playing, laughter, the clink of glasses. The wedding wasn't yesterday. It was happening right now at that very moment, and she was lying to my face. "Gotta go by." The line went dead. I looked around my house. The couch I'd bought for their apartment sat in my living room. I'd replaced it when they said theirs was broken. In my closet hung a pale pink dress, $200 I'd spent thinking about how nice I'd look in my son's wedding photos. On my desk sat a check for $1,000 already signed, ready to give them as a wedding gift. My son had been there. I'd heard him in the background. He'd said nothing. Not one word to defend me, to explain, to soften the blow. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. A notification. Sloane had posted on Instagram. I opened it with shaking hands. 47 photos. An elaborate wedding with at least 80 guests. An open bar, a live band, an ice sculpture shaped like a heart. Sloane's entire family dressed to the nines, raising champagne glasses. Her white dress, the one I'd helped pay for last month when she said she needed $800 for personal expenses. The caption read, "So grateful for everyone who matters in our lives. They're special people, just you're blessed." I scrolled through every single photo. Each one was a knife in my chest. There was Sloane's mother crying happy tears, her father proud and beaming, her siblings laughing and dancing, Garrett in his tuxedo smiling wider than I'd seen in years. Not one photo mentioned me. Not one person had thought to ask, "Where's Garrett's father?" I sat alone in my house, that night in the darkness, staring at those photos on my phone. The house I'd paid off through 40 years of construction work. The house where I'd raised my son by myself after cancer, took his mother when he was just 12 years old. People talk about hearts breaking. They don't tell you it feels like something crystallizing, hardening, something that was soft and giving, turning into something else entirely. Something inside me broke that night, but not the way they thought it would, not the way they wanted. Because when Sloane called me the next morning demanding money like nothing had happened, I was ready. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with 3 years of bank statements spread in front of me, my laptop open and a calculator that kept showing me the same impossible number, $33,400. I stared at the spreadsheet I'd created. Every transfer, every check, every emergency that had drained Vivian's life insurance, the money she'd left, so I could retire in peace. Monthly rent, $500, times 36 months, $18,000. Groceries and supplies, another $7,200. Birthday gifts, Christmas anniversaries, $3,000. Sloane's medical emergency. $800 I later learned was cosmetic surgery. The car loan they never paid back. The air conditioner repair. The living room furniture. $33,400 of my retirement. Gone. But it was the pattern that made my hands shake. I pulled up my old emails, cross-referenced the dates. Every single emergency had happened within days of me mentioning I had extra money. My tax refund, suddenly their car needed repairs, my retirement bonus. The air conditioner broke. When I told them about Vivian's life insurance payout, Sloane had a medical crisis. They'd been hunting me, like prey. Then I remembered something that had been gnawing at me all evening. A week before the wedding, I'd driven to their apartment with groceries. I'd parked outside, seen the lights on the window open, and I'd heard Sloane on the phone. The memory crashed back with perfect clarity. I'd been sitting in my car, groceries on my lap, about to get out, when her voice had drifted through the open window. She'd been on speaker. "Next Saturday, just a small ceremony," she'd said. "No, we're not inviting Dwayne. Are you kidding? Have him crying in the photos?" There'd been laughter on the other end. Then Sloane had said something that made my blood run cold. Even now. "Trust me, once we get the guardianship, we'll have full access. Kirby says 6 months tops. Old people lose capacity all the time." I'd heard Garrett's voice in the background. Faint, but there. He'd said nothing, not one word to defend me, to stop her, to say this was wrong. I'd driven home that night and convinced myself I'd misheard, that there was some explanation, that my son wouldn't do this to me. Now, sitting at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning, I Googled guardianship elderly parent. The results made me sick. Legal authority to make all decisions, financial medical living arrangements, once granted nearly impossible to reverse. The elderly person could be placed in a facility against their will. They weren't just after my money, they were after my freedom, my life. Monday morning, I went to the bank. Sterling Klein, my account manager for 15 years, took one look at my face and closed his office door. "Mr. Hollister," he said quietly, "I'm glad you came in." He turned his computer screen toward me. A graph showed my account balance over 3 years, a steady, sickening decline from $180,000 to $52,000. "I've watched this happen," Sterling said. "I should have said something sooner, but last week?" He pulled up a form. "Your son was here. He wanted to add himself as a joint account holder, said it was for emergencies." The form had Garrett's signature, dated 5 days before the wedding. "I denied it," Sterling continued. "You have to be present for that." He was upset, very upset. He showed me security footage of Garrett arguing with a teller. "He was planning this before the wedding," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "Mr. Hollister, in my 25 years in banking, I've seen this pattern before. Please be careful." That evening, my sister Loretta called from Phoenix. She'd seen the wedding photos. "Dwayne, you weren't there." I told her everything. The phone call, the photos, what I'd overheard. There was a long silence. Then Loretta started crying. "I should have told you sooner," she said. "Sloane's been emailing me for 3 years. I saved them all. I thought I was protecting you from hurt, but I was wrong." She read me excerpts. Year 1. "Dwayne is so generous." Year 2. "When's he going to give us the house?" Year 3. "Kirby says we have a strong case. Old people lose capacity all the time." The final email sent a week before the wedding. We're not inviting Dwayne or you. After the wedding, we move forward with the plan. He'll be in a facility within 6 months, and we'll have everything. Send me everything, I said. I'm going to need it. After we hung up, I sat in my study surrounded by evidence, bank statements, emails, the pattern of manipulation stretching back 3 years. I looked at Vivian's photo on my desk. I'm sorry, I whispered. I wasted everything you left us. But then something shifted inside me, not breaking, hardening, crystallizing into something sharp and clear. For 3 years, I'd thought I was being a good father. I'd been a fool, but not anymore. When my phone rang the next morning, Sloane's name flashing on the screen, I was ready to close the bank of Dad forever. Sunday morning, 7 o'clock. My phone rang. Sloane's voice was different this time. Sweet, almost pleading. Dwayne, hi. So tiny problem. The rent was due yesterday, and we're a little short. Can you do the transfer today? The landlord is being a real jerk about it. I let the silence stretch. Let her hear it. Sloane? I said, my voice calm clear. Didn't I warn you I only help special people? The silence on her end was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. What? Her voice had lost all its sweetness. Dwayne, this isn't funny. I'm not laughing. Figure it out yourselves. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. 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 By 9 o'clock, I had 23 missed calls. I turned off my phone and drove to the bank. Sterling was waiting for me. We'd scheduled this meeting on Friday, but he'd come in on his Sunday morning off. Mr. Hollister, he said, shaking my hand. Let's get this done. We spent an hour securing everything, canceled all automatic transfers, removed Garrett as my beneficiary, put a fraud alert on my accounts. Then Sterling helped me open a new account at a different bank entirely, and we transferred 80% of my remaining funds there. Your son won't be able to find this one, Sterling said. It's not linked to anything he has access to. As we finished, Sterling's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and showed me the security camera feed from the bank's front door. Garrett, standing there at 8:45. That morning, 45 minutes before the bank opened. Waiting. He was here when I arrived, Sterling said quietly. Demanded to make an emergency withdrawal from your account. I told him he has no access. He didn't take it well. The footage showed Garrett arguing, gesturing frantically, then Sloane arriving, both of them shouting at the security guard. How long before they escalate? I asked. Sterling's expression was grim. In my experience, 48 hours. He was wrong. It took 36. Tuesday morning, I was in my living room installing the security cameras my neighbor Marlowe had recommended when my doorbell rang. I checked the new camera feed on my phone. Garrett, Sloane, and a man in an expensive suit I didn't recognize. I pressed the intercom button on my Ring doorbell. I'm not available. Dwayne, we know you're there. Sloane's voice was sharp now, all pretense gone. We need to talk. We have legal documents. Garrett leaned toward the camera. Dad, please. We're worried about you. You're not acting like yourself. The man in the suit stepped forward, holding papers up to the camera. Mr. Hollister, I'm Kirby Fisher, attorney at law. We have a wellness check authorization. We have concerns about your mental state. Please open the door, or we'll have to involve the authorities. My hands were steady as I pressed the button again. You can talk to my attorney, I said. Thaddeus Weber, goodbye. I ended the call and watched them on the camera. Sloane was furious, pacing. Garrett looked lost, confused. Fisher was already on his phone. They stood there for 20 minutes before finally leaving. I called Weber immediately. They just tried to get into my house with a lawyer. "I know," Weber said. "Fisher just called me. He's fishing. Don't engage with them directly anymore. Everything goes through me now." "What's next?" "They'll file a petition, probably within the week." It took exactly 6 days. The process server came on Monday afternoon, a thick envelope of legal documents. I read them in my kitchen, my coffee going cold. Petition for guardianship. They were claiming I was mentally incompetent, a danger to myself, suffering from cognitive decline and financial mismanagement. The petition cited my erratic behavior, changing locks, installing security cameras, cutting off my family financially without explanation. They wanted full guardianship. Complete control over my finances, my medical decisions, my living situation, the right to place me in a facility if they deemed it necessary. I read every word twice. Then I called Weber. "They filed," I said. "I know, I just got the notification. How are you doing?" I looked around my kitchen, at Vivian's photo on the wall, at the life I'd built through 40 years of honest work, at the freedom they were trying to take from me. "I'm angry," I said, "and I'm ready to fight." "Good," Weber said, "because this is war now. But Dwayne, I need you to understand something. They're not playing around. If they win this, they get everything. Your money, your freedom, your dignity, everything. Then we can't let them win." "We won't, but we need to be smart, strategic. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? We have a lot of work to do." After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my house. The house I'd paid for, the life I'd built, the freedom I'd earned. They wanted to take it all, lock me away, control me, erase me. But I had evidence. I had Sterling. I had Loretta's emails. I had 3 years of bank records showing exactly what they'd done. And now I had an attorney who knew how to fight. They wanted full control of my life. But I had a plan. Thaddeus Weber's office was nothing like Kirby Fisher's polished corporate space. It was cluttered with case files, framed thank you letters from elderly clients, and a coffee maker that looked older than me. Weber himself was 58, gray-haired, with the kind eyes of someone who'd seen too much suffering and decided to do something about it. "Mr. Hollister," he said, shaking my hand firmly, "what your son and daughter-in-law are doing has a name. It's called elder financial abuse, and it's a federal crime." Those words, hearing someone finally name what had been done to me, made something loosen in my chest. "They think they're being clever," Weber continued, spreading my documents across his desk. "But they've left a trail a mile wide. The question is, how hard do you want to fight?" "As hard as it takes," he smiled. "Good, because we're not just going to win this case. We're going to make sure they never try this with anyone else." The first step was proving my mental competence beyond any doubt. Dr. Ramona Keyes was a psychiatrist who specialized in capacity evaluations. Weber had worked with her for 20 years. "She's thorough," he'd said, "and she doesn't play games." The evaluation took an entire day, memory tests, logic puzzles, financial scenarios. She asked me to balance a checkbook plan, a budget, explain investment strategies. She tested my recall of recent events, my ability to make decisions, my understanding of the lawsuit against me. 8 hours of proving I was exactly who I'd always been. A week later, I sat in Weber's office again as Dr. Keyes delivered her findings. "Mr. Hollister," she said, looking me straight in the eye, "your cognitive function tests in the 94th percentile for your age group. You're sharper than most 50-year-olds I evaluate." I felt something like vindication wash over me. "There is zero evidence of dementia, cognitive decline, or impaired judgment," she continued. "In fact, your recent decisions securing your finances, seeking legal counsel, documenting everything show excellent critical thinking skills." Weber grinned. "That's going in our brief." The same week, my neighbor, Marlo Brooks, knocked on my door with a thermos of coffee. I heard the yelling last week, she said. When those people tried to get in, I wanted to check on you. I invited her in, and somehow the whole story came pouring out. Marlo listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took my hand. 6 years ago, she said quietly, my son tried to do the same thing to me. Different details, same pattern. He'd been borrowing money for years, and when I finally said no, he tried to have me declared incompetent. What happened? I fought. It was hell, but I won. And you know what? 2 years later, he apologized. We have a real relationship now based on respect, not money. She squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing, Dwayne, and you're not alone. It was the first time since this nightmare began that I felt like someone truly understood. But Weber's next revelation changed everything. I hired a private investigator, he said during our third meeting. Standard procedure in these cases, we need to know everything about the opposition. He slid a folder across his desk. I opened it. Photographs. Sloan entering a hotel with a man I'd never seen. The same man, different hotels, different days. Timestamps going back 6 months. His name is Marcus Delacroix, Weber said. She's been having an affair the entire time she's been married to your son. I stared at the photos. Part of me felt sick for Garrett for the lie he was living. But another part of me saw it clearly. This was who Sloan really was. A woman who would betray anyone for what she wanted. Does Garrett know? I asked. No evidence he does, which means we have a choice. We can use this in court to destroy her credibility, or we can keep it in reserve. Use it, I said without hesitation. If she's going to try to paint herself as a devoted family member who cares about me, the jury needs to know the truth. Over the next 3 weeks, Weber and I built our case like a fortress. We had the bank records, $33,400 every transaction documented. We had Loretta's emails proving 3 years of premeditation. We had Sterling's testimony about Garrett trying to access my accounts. We had Dr. Keyes' evaluation proving I was not just competent, but exceptionally sharp. We had the pattern of emergencies that always coincided with me having extra money. And now we had proof that Sloan was not the devoted daughter-in-law she claimed to be. This is a strong case, Weber said, reviewing everything one final time. We have enough to win. He looked up at me, and something fierce glinted in his eyes. But I don't want to just win, Dwayne. I want to destroy them. I want to make sure they never try this with anyone else, and that every judge in this county knows what they did. Are you ready for that? I thought about the wedding photos, about only special people, about 3 years of being used, about them trying to take my freedom, my dignity, my life. I said. Weber smiled. Good, because we have one secret weapon they'll never see coming. The trial was set for Monday. We had evidence. We had truth. And we had something they didn't know about something that would destroy their case completely. I was ready. The courtroom was packed. Marlo sat in the front row with friends from her support group, other people who'd fought their own families. Their presence steadied me. Kirby Fisher stood for his opening statement, his voice dripping with practiced sympathy. Your Honor, this is a tragic case of an elderly man losing his grip on reality. Dwayne Hollister has cut off his loving family without explanation, installed security cameras out of paranoia, and made increasingly erratic financial decisions. His son and daughter-in-law are here today out of genuine concern for a man they love. Then Weber stood. His voice was steel. Your Honor, this isn't about incompetence. This is about theft. Garrett and Sloan Hollister are attempting to legally steal $150,000 from a man whose only mistake was loving his son too much. We will prove that Mr. Hollister is not just competent, he's exceptionally sharp, and will prove that the only people showing poor judgment in this courtroom are the plaintiffs. Judge Miller's eyebrows rose slightly. This wasn't the case he'd expected. Sloane took the stand, first dressed conservatively, her eyes already glistening with tears. "We're so worried about him," she said, her voice trembling. "He's become so hostile, so paranoid. We just want to help him." Fisher walked her through their narrative, the loving family, the concerned children, the father who'd suddenly turned against them. Then Weber stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Hollister, when was the last time you called Dwayne without asking him for money?" Sloane blinked. We talk all the time about lots of things." "I didn't ask what you talk about. I asked when you last called without asking for money." Silence. "I have phone records here." Weber continued. 47 calls over 3 years. 46 were requests for money. The 47th was to tell him about your wedding after it had already happened. Sloane's face flushed. Weber pulled out a folder. "Mrs. Hollister, who is Marcus Delacroix." The color drained from her face. I don't know that name." "You don't?" Weber approached with photographs. "These were taken over the past 6 months. That's you entering the Riverside Hotel, the Marriott downtown, the Holiday Inn on 5th Street, and that's Marcus Delacroix with you." He handed the photos to the judge, then turned them toward the gallery. In the audience, Garrett stood up. "What?" The courtroom erupted. Judge Miller banged his gavel. Sloane's mask shattered completely. "This has nothing to do with—" "It has everything to do with it," Weber said calmly. "You've portrayed yourself as a devoted family member who cares about Mr. Hollister's well-being. But you're a woman who's been lying to everyone, including your husband, while trying to steal from an elderly man." Sloane had no answer. When Garrett took the stand, he was visibly shaken. Fisher tried to walk him through prepared testimony, but Garrett kept looking at Sloane betrayal written across his face. Weber's cross-examination was surgical. "Mr. Hollister, do you love your father?" Yes." "When did you last tell him that?" Garrett's face crumpled. I don't remember. In 3 years you never said I love you, but phone records show you said I need money 46 times. Is that love?" Garrett broke down, crying. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Dad." But it was too late for sorry. Dr. Lehman, their psychiatric expert, testified about classic signs of dementia. Paranoia, cutting off family financial confusion. Weber destroyed him in 3 questions. "Dr. Lehman, have you ever met Dwayne Hollister?" "No, but based on the reports?" "Have you examined him, spoken to him, evaluated him in any way?" "The reports were sufficient." "Is it true the plaintiffs paid you $15,000 for this testimony?" Dr. Lehman had no credible answer. Then Dr. Keyes took the stand. She presented her findings with clinical precision. 8 hours of evaluation, cognitive function in the 94th percentile, 0 signs of decline, evidence of excellent judgment in his recent decisions to protect himself. "In my professional opinion," she concluded, "Mr. Hollister is not only competent, he's one of the sharpest 71-year-olds I've evaluated in my 20-year career." Finally, it was my turn. I walked to the stand with my head high. Weber guided me through my story. The 3 years of support, the wedding exclusion, the moment I overheard their guardianship plan, the $33,400 I'd given them. "Mr. Hollister," Weber asked gently, "do you regret the money you gave them?" I looked at Garrett, then at Sloane. "I don't regret the money," I said clearly. "I regret that I taught my son love could be bought. That was my failure as a father. But I'm not incompetent. I'm just done being used." The courtroom was silent. Fisher's cross-examination tried to paint me as bitter vindictive, but every question he asked I answered with calm clarity. My mind was sharp, my memory perfect, my reasoning sound. When both sides rested, Judge Miller looked at us all. "I'll deliberate for 30 minutes, he said. 30 minutes felt like 30 years. When Judge Miller returned, his face told me everything I needed to know. Judge Miller looked directly at me as he spoke. "I've been on this bench for 22 years, he said. This is the clearest case of elder financial abuse I have ever seen." My heart began to pound. The petition for guardianship is denied. Mr. Hollister is not only competent, the evidence shows he has exercised excellent judgment in protecting himself from systematic exploitation. Relief flooded through me. Furthermore, the judge continued, his voice hardening. "I am granting a permanent restraining order. The plaintiffs are to have no contact with Mr. Hollister. None." Sloan made a sound like a wounded animal. "The plaintiffs will pay Mr. Hollister's legal fees in full, $47,000. "We don't have that kind of money," Sloan shouted. Judge Miller's gaze was ice. "Then you'll learn what real financial struggle is. Finally, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office. The evidence of elder abuse, fraud, and perjury warrants criminal investigation." The gavel came down. I had won. Completely. In the parking lot, Garrett caught up with me. His eyes were red, devastated. "Dad, please. I didn't know about Marcus. She used me too. We can fix this." I stopped walking and turned to face my son. "Maybe she did use you, Garrett, but you knew about the wedding. You knew you were hurting me, and you chose her every single time." "I'm sorry." "So am I." I looked at him, really. Looked at him maybe for the last time. "You're 35 years old. It's time you learned to stand on your own." I walked to my car. Behind me, I heard him calling. "Dad, Dad, please." I didn't look back. 2 months later, the district attorney filed criminal charges: elder financial abuse, a felony, fraud, perjury. Sloan faced up to 5 years. Garrett, as an accomplice, faced 3. I felt no satisfaction in that, only a quiet sense that justice was being served. 3 months after the trial, I sold my house. Too many memories, too much pain in those walls. I bought a smaller condo downtown, modern and bright, with a view of the city I'd helped build with my own hands over 40 years. I started volunteering at an elder abuse prevention center, helping others recognize the signs I'd missed for so long, telling my story so others wouldn't have to live it. And I started a YouTube channel. The Bank of Dad is closed. I told my story. All of it. The wedding, the money, the guardianship attempt, the trial. 500,000 people subscribed in 3 months. Thousands of comments from people saying, "This happened to me too." Or, "Thank you for giving me the courage to say no." I wasn't just surviving. I was helping others survive. On my 72nd birthday, Marlowe organized a party at my new place. Sterling came, Dr. Keyes, Weber, friends from the support group, people from the volunteer center. My condo was full of laughter, real laughter, from people who cared about me, not my bank account. Marlowe raised her glass. "To Dwayne, who taught us all that it's never too late to choose yourself." Everyone cheered. Later, I stood on my balcony looking at the city lights, and I thought about Vivian, about the life we'd built, about Garrett, the boy he'd been, and the man he'd become. And I thought about myself. 72 years old. For 71 of those years, I'd thought I knew what love was. I was wrong. Love isn't what you give up. It's not what you sacrifice or buy or trade for affection. Love is what you become when you stop giving yourself away. The Bank of Dad is closed, but the life of Dwayne Hollister, That's just beginning. Looking back now, I understand. Something I wish I'd known sooner. The people who truly love you will never make you choose between your dignity and their affection. For 3 years, I confused generosity with love. I thought if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, paid enough, I would earn the relationship I desperately wanted with my son. But love, real love, doesn't have a price tag. It doesn't come with invoices and payment plans. The hardest lesson. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us deepest. Not because we mean less to them, but because we've allowed ourselves to mean less than we should. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, if you're the one always giving, always sacrificing, always wondering if you've done enough, hear me clearly. You are enough. Your worth isn't measured by your bank account. Your value isn't determined by what you can provide. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. Saying no isn't abandonment. Protecting yourself isn't selfishness. It's survival. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for them and for yourself is to close the bank. I'm 72 years old, and my life is just beginning. Yours can be too. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel. There are thousands of stories like mine that need to be heard. Stories of people who found the courage to choose themselves, to set boundaries, to reclaim their lives. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change your perspective, give you strength, or help you realize you're not alone. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's been giving too much for too long. Someone who needs permission to say no. Leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to close your own bank of mom or bank of dad. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Thank you for listening to mine. Until next time, remember, love yourself enough to set boundaries. You deserve that much. Subscribe, share, and never forget your worth.